Oh, and here we go on a Tuesday night. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We will be here for, I'm guesstimating, about 160 consecutive nights. Wow. The ladies of college football do take it on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So join Minnie and Doreen every Sunday night right here at the Voice of College Football on the main channel. And if you check out the community posts that I post each and every day, early in the morning, then you see the litany of shows that we have across the board. And a Tuesday, man, it is loaded with about 17 or 18 shows. So load up on the college football content because we are just a few days away from action on the field. And I can't wait to watch Kansas State and Iowa State play. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind that we've got our predictions, meaning myself, Steve Dace, Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and our headliner is, of course, Steve Merrill from Wager Talk with predictions that we will deliver each and every week during the college football season. And look forward to that first segment from Steve Merrill sometime next week, probably on Thursday. That's been the run for the last 7 years with Steve Merrill from Wager Talk and myself, highlighting and breaking down, and he'll give his 10,000 simulation total on every major college football game, all the big games of the week. But he gives us that exclusive under the radar selection that is locked in at 28-12 the last 3 years. You'll hear more about that in a little bit. But let's get to the calls. Got a long timer showing up here in DeAndre. DeAndre, appreciate you being here, man.
What's up, Mark? I got to figure all this new stuff out on how to donate. So I guess I got to go to Venmo or Cash App because it'll be tripping on YouTube sometime.
Okay.
When I try to donate. So I need to start going there.
And when people do contribute on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, I get to do a better job of catching up the recognition on that. So I check it every so often. And not a lot of people do because it's just obviously easier to support here. But it is more effective, DeAndre. I do get all of that. The network here receives all of that versus YouTube taking a pretty large chunk.
Yeah. And I'm about to... Are you doing picks this weekend for the first week, 0 week, or you?
Yeah, that'll just be you and everybody else. We'll just get them right here. I'll just throw them out there right here. So you don't need to go anywhere for week 0. There's only 3 games, and I don't know that I'm going to pick all of them. I'm definitely going to pick Kansas State and Iowa State, but I don't know about those other 2. And then we'll be on Patreon or YouTube channel members for the picks for week 1.
Okay. Well, I got 4 questions. Well, sort of 4 questions. Okay. I looked at that Mississippi State Vanderbilt. They only played 17 times in their history.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I mean, I know why, but you know. My next question, I don't know if you had the answer to this, but in the 60s, was Georgia Tech and Alabama a big rivalry or a big game?
You know, I would be making something up if I told you that I knew for sure. I know that I've heard that. It sounds familiar, but I'm not going to say that I am going to be able to tell you much about that. Did not Georgia Tech leave the SEC in 1953?
Okay. I thought it was a little bit later than that, but okay.
It might be. It might be. I'm going to check that right now.
Yeah, because I was looking at it, and I know they played a lot in that time period. But
they didn't leave until 1964.
Yeah, that's why I was saying I thought there might have been a big game. Because if you go look at the record, I don't think Alabama has that much of a lead over Georgia Tech. I think it's like maybe by 4 games or something like that.
Yeah, that's easy to find out, obviously. But Georgia Tech left the SEC based on a dispute about scholarship limits.
Right. You know, I won't go and say nothing about this, but it just popped up in my head because I wanted to talk to you about it the other day. You know, people really need to go look on. It came up with the Pitt and the Penn State conversation that me and you had who
Yes.
was a better program all the time, and we said I came up with it, if you really look at it, Pitt probably was the better program all the time. I know you say because of Joe Pa. When Joe Pa came, Pitt kind of got pushed to the side, uh, all time Pitt probably had no better program. But I hope people will take the time to realize why college football programs were dominant. Like I give you an example, Nebraska, the Prop 48 players that they took made them a dominant program, and the walk-on programs that they had. Teams up north, they might have been really good because they might have had more minorities playing in there, or Southern Cal. And I hope that part of college football don't get taken away, that we don't look at why teams were good at that time period, even from us historians' point of view, because that's very important. This school in Nebraska, who's not as good as they were when we were coming up, why were they so good back then? Well, the Prop 48, uh, they took African Americans to play there. Kansas was another program, Oklahoma, and they were really good. Uh, but especially Nebraska. Before I let you go, Mark, I wanted to say this. I watched your Carolina leaving for the SEC
Yes.
possibility. I would like to say this. I live in North Carolina. I don't think that's really going to happen because they will have to take NC State with them. And I
They
really
were.
think, yeah, because the legislator, just like Virginia Tech, I think they all got clauses that whatever conference that school goes to, the other school got to go to.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because, yeah, I produced that video and I forgot about that. But we've talked about that in the past, and I did include that in other videos that I talked about North Carolina maybe going to the SEC. And when I produced the original video 3 or 4 years ago, or North Carolina to the Big Ten, I talked about that. But that slipped my mind in that most recent video. I don't know how. Certainly, what you're telling us is the truth because, again, I have talked about that myself. I don't know if that, when it comes to those sorts of things and money's involved, things can be, worked around. So,
Yeah, but I know what you're saying, but I think it's like a legislative law. Like,
sure.
I don't know how to say, but I really think Carolina will be making a mistake by leaving, not because of football. And I understand the TV contract money, but if Clemson and Florida State were to leave, who else does Carolina got to worry about outside of maybe Miami?
Well, the way they've been running their football program, they've got just about everybody to worry about. Louisville, Virginia Tech, all sorts of teams have been as least as good as they have. But I get your point. They should be better.
Mhm.
And the way I look at the ACC, the hierarchy has almost become Clemson, then Florida State, then, well, Miami, not record wise, but you still view them as being a recruiting giant and they should win a lot more. But yeah,
Mhm.
I almost look at North Carolina as the fourth school in line in terms of what they should be accomplishing and the NFL players that they produce. But when you look at winning percentages and who's winning, we could both run through all the teams in the ACC that have won multiple championships in the conference since North Carolina last won the conference.
Yeah, I think it was 78, 80,
I think it
80
was
maybe.
81,
Yeah, and even NC State has a 1-1 since the 79. Mark,
79. Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna let you go, but there was something I came across that I think you might be interested if you ain't never seen it. Like, and I know you're a very busy man, but it goes into the history of offenses in college football. And like the Veer, I think it started off at the University of Houston, the wishbone and stuff like that. And I'm gonna send it to you on Twitter, and I
Okay.
think you'll like it. I don't know if you have time to really sit back and look at it, but it gives a very, especially with the season about to start. But when the all season comes and all the stories are written, I think you should sit down and look at it because it gives a very interesting point of view. But I'll go to start donating on what's that place called?
On
Uh,
Patreon.
yeah, Patreon or what's that thing called? Cash App. So
Oh,
so be
okay.
looking
Well,
out
I
for mine.
appreciate it.
All right, Mark, you have a great
Thanks,
night, okay?
DeAndre. And by the way, Bama leads the all-time series against Georgia Tech 28-21. And so when Georgia Tech left the SEC in 1964, that was the last time they played for 15 years. And
81,
then
they
I
played
do
at
remember
Georgia
some of
Tech.
these games. They signed a 6-year home and home. They played 6 straight years in the late 70s up to 1984, and 84 is the last time the two played.
Yeah, Brycefield, the opening game. You have a great day, Mark.
Thank you, DeAndre. I appreciate it.
All right.
And for the record, Penn State leads Pitt all time 53-43. All right. Unfortunately, got to bypass a lot of callers because we do have a guest coming in here. Jason Priester, of course, Clemson insider. Great place to catch his work on a daily basis. Jason, what's going on?
It's starting to get a little busy, man. How about you?
It is getting busy. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
That keeps the blood circulating.
Best time of the year.
This is the best time of year. Okay. All right. Well, in about 4 days, we're actually going to watch guys play football, and we can talk about that instead of talking about what we think is going to happen.
Amen to that. I just mean football season is the best time of the year.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And like I said to somebody earlier today, taking calls, we can forget about all this nonsense, NIL, transfer portals, revenue distribution, 28 team playoff proposals, all this ridiculous mess. When I see Clemson and LSU on the field, it might as well be 1995 or 2012 or the Peach Bowl in some other year, because once they start hitting and they're just players out there playing, that's when I love it. Between the white lines, and we can forget about the rest of the mess.
All the rest of it's just background noise at that point, man. Afterthought.
That's it. So we got to savor the season. And people think Clemson's going to have a banner season. We're down to the nitty gritty. Only about 9 days or whatever it is until the opener. So has anything happened during fall camp for this Clemson football team that's anything of note?
Not really. They've kind of come out of this thing in a pretty good spot, especially when you consider, some of the injuries that have accumulated during fall camp and the spring, over the past several years. I mean, they had some guys get banged up with some minor stuff, but outside of a reserve running back in Jarvis Green, who's out indefinitely with a foot injury, it seems like they have come out of camp, in a fairly good spot from a health standpoint. Starting offensive lineman Walker Parks missed a little bit of time. I'm not sure if he's back yet or not, but starting safety Khalil Barnes has missed some times dealing with a minor hamstring. But that's about it. Adam Randall missed a couple of days, but that other than that, man, they seem to be in a pretty good spot. Nothing really noteworthy except for the hype train that has left the station and started to go off the rails, man.
All right. Well, what can't go off the rails is this running back room. They need to stay on the rails because it's kind of thin. And I know that from our previous conversations, you're you and everybody else excited to see the freshman. I can't think of his name.
Gideon Davidson.
And of course, Adam Randall was the guy that filled in last year and has been working at the position the entire offseason and should be ready to go. What would be your best guess? And I know that this is total speculation because Dabo hasn't given much away. But let's say they have a typical game against LSU where, it's a shootout, or it's a normally scoring game. offense wins a lot of it, defense, it's like a 31-28 kind of game, what we're anticipating. And the offense, let's say, throws it a little over 50% of the time. Klubnik's throwing it 35 times, let's say. So they run it 30 times, something in that range. What is your best guess on who's going to get those touches?
Adam Randall. I mean, he went into the fall atop the depth chart. He's coming out of the fall atop the depth chart. In the 2 fall camp scrimmages they had, he's been the top guy. It sounds like David Ezuimume has taken a lot of the second string reps in both of those scrimmages with Davidson, still kind of trying to acclimate and pick up the offense and the blitz protect, or the pass protections and the blitz pickups and those kind of things. I'm not saying we won't see him at all in that opener, but it wouldn't shock me at all if it was, he got minimal touches. And that would kind of fall in line with kind of the way Dabo does things. You go back to that opener last year against Georgia. You didn't see a whole lot of Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. They didn't really start seeing their snaps increase until week 2, once they got to that App State game where they blew out App State at home in the home opener. He likes to go with his veterans in these kind of openers, and I fully expect him to do the same thing here. I think it's going to be Randall with a little bit of the redshirt freshman Ezuimume kind of mixed in. Maybe see Keith Adams in some short yardage type situations, and maybe a touch here and there for Davidson, and maybe add on to that after you get out of that LSU game.
This team lost 3 games to SEC teams last year, 0-3 against the SEC. So I went back in the Rolodex. I didn't confirm this. I didn't look at the scores, but I think I got this in my head. I went back to the end of the Trevor Lawrence era. What do you think Clemson's record is against the SEC in that time?
Since when?
Since Trevor Lawrence left.
Oh, it's under 500.
So if I'm thinking about this right, they've lost the last 2 out of 3 against South Carolina, right?
Each team's won the last 2 on the road, if I'm remembering right. So, yeah, two out of the last 3.
And then they would have won the game before that. So we're looking at 21, 22, 23, 24. 4 games against South Carolina. So that's a 2-2 split. They've lost to Georgia twice. They beat Kentucky in a bowl game. So we're up to 3-4. Anyway, I went through the calisthenics. I've got 3-7.
That sounds about right.
They lost to Texas, obviously, last year. And who would be the other teams? I'm missing somebody in there. Tennessee in a bowl game.
Yep.
I came up with 3-7.
Yep. 3 out of the last 10 sounds right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what, if we're talking perceptions, this is a big game for Clemson. They've lost not just, 3 out of the last 10 or 7 out of the last 10, but they've lost 3 in a row. They lost all 3 against SEC teams last year. You got to do something to kind of change that narrative. If you go out and you lose at home in that opener to LSU, the narratives are just going to start about how Clemson can't compete with the SEC. They were overhyped coming into the season. So from a perception standpoint, this game's huge. But if you're just looking at getting into the playoff, I don't think this game means all that much. All you got to do is win your league and you're in. So it just depends on how you want to look at it. But, man, it just me personally, I think it's a game Clemson needs, because if you start the season off losing another opener, that would be 3 in a row. You lost to Georgia in the opener last year. You lost at Duke the year before last. You'd be 0-3 in your last 3 openers. Not the way you want to get the season started, particularly, when you've made no bones about the fact that you've got national title aspirations. And if you look at what Clemson's going to lose after this year, it might be a little bit before they have those kind of aspirations again. It's kind of now or never when you look, towards 2026 and 2027. Maybe they get something put together for 27, but they lose a ton off of this team after this year. There's going to be a lot to replace for next year. In my mind, it might be a rebuilding year in a sense, but this is a big one. You don't want to start out the season 0-1 when you think you've got a team that is capable of at least competing for a national title.
And this almost makes this game, if the season plays out the way we expect, more important for LSU than for Clemson. Because when you say all you need to do is win your league, well, I think that's a little easier said and done for Clemson. Not that it's going to be a cakewalk by any stretch, but to say LSU go win the SEC, I think the odds are pretty well stacked against them. So they need a really good record to get into this playoff.
I've said the same exact thing. I think it's bigger for LSU in that regard because it's not, let's be frank, it's not quite as difficult to run through and win the ACC as it is the SEC. SEC's, a much deeper conference, tends to be the best conference year in and year out. Maybe not every single year, but more often than not. And I would expect it to be again this year. So, yeah. I think it's probably in that regard when you're talking about getting into the playoff, it's probably a game LSU needs more than Clemson because they're likely looking at trying to, or at least, probably have a better shot or see how I want to say this. Their path to a conference championship is much more difficult than Clemson. So they have a higher percentage of competing for an at-large bid, which a win over Clemson would certainly be a resume booster in that regard.
No doubt about that. Is there anything going on the recruiting trail with Clemson?
It's kind of been quiet here of late. They picked up a couple of 2027 commits last month, or in June, right after they started handing out offers to those kids. Sammy Brown's younger brother, Max Brown, 4-star linebacker, he committed almost immediately after he got his offer. And Clemson picked up their quarterback pretty quick. They had latched on to 4-star Peyton Houston in June, and he was kind of the lone target there for a few weeks. And then all of a sudden on July the 4th, they hand out, I think it was 3 more offers, if I'm remembering right. Pow, pow, pow. One guy didn't go public to the next day, but they offered 3 more kids, Trent Seaborn, Teddy Gerard, and Kareem Hughley. Well, a few days later, Hughley jumps on board. He commits right out of the blue, unexpectedly, kind of the lesser-known name of those 4 guys, but, ironically, the higher rated in a majority of the recruiting service. So they got their quarterback locked up, but for the next class. But usually once they get into fall camp, that stuff kind of goes on pause for a little bit. They focus on getting ready for the season. It'll amp back up, man. There's going to be a ton of, big name recruits at that LSU game. The list is going to be a mile long. Clemson still needs, I think they're probably going to try to take at least one linebacker in the 26 class. They don't have one yet. We'll see if they pursue another defensive end. I lean towards thinking they probably won't unless they find somebody they like, but they're all but done in the 26 class.
Folks, it's the Clemson Insider. You see where to follow Jason right there on X, and also at Clemson Insider if you're looking to follow the Clemson Insider on X as well. Jason, always appreciate you stopping by, breaking down the Clemson Tigers for us, and of course that's one of the big games of week 1 that everybody's looking out for.
Can't wait for it, man. Appreciate it, Mark.
Thanks, JP. We'll see you. All right, good stuff there from Jason Priester. Let's continue to march on through the calls. And, of course, we definitely thought we had Nathan Brown. There we go. There he is.
How you doing, Mark?
I couldn't tell that was you necessarily because the setup looked quite a bit different, and I couldn't see your handle there. But we got Nathan Brown from, of course, the College Football Mafia and the Big 12 Mafia.
Yeah, sorry about that. We lost power, and I was actually running my own show, and I lost everything. So I apologize. I'm doing this from my cell phone.
Well, hey, we hope you get your power back.
Oh, it'll be okay. No big deal. We're all happy here because Bear Bachmeier is a quarterback.
I know. So I saw that come down here in the last 24 hours or so.
Yeah, that's a big deal around here, right? I mean, he was a composite 4-star recruit, went to Stanford, super, super smart. His brother is a receiver, transferred at the same time, and he graduated from Stanford in 2.5 years. So that should give you a good indication. He's got a family that's really deep, and I honestly think that's all that's the only difference between 11-2 last year and 13 and whatever one in the playoff is the difference in Jake Retzlaff and a real good quarterback.
Yeah, so is he of the Bachmeier family that produced Hank Bachmeier, the former Boise State quarterback?
Yeah, that's his older brother. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So what kind of quarterback play can we expect out of him? What style of player is he?
I don't know. It's going to be tough. His number's 47. His nickname is, or his name
47.
is 47.
And they're going to let him
47.
trot out onto the field and play quarterback at number 47.
They are, yeah, actually, and he plays
Well,
a
that's
lot
kind of
heads.
cool.
He plays a lot heads down. He's gonna. There's gonna be some RPO in there, but he is more of a pure thrower. Exploiting the tools is the one thing that Jake couldn't really do. Like, if we want to compare BYU to last year to this year, it really is going to be the difference in the quarterback play. Now, he's a true freshman. Who knows if a true freshman actually does the conversion? But I really think the upside, it's that word potential, right? Defense is loaded. Skill positions are ready. They just need to somebody has to get the ball to them.
So when most of us check out BYU for the first time this year, and I'm scrambling for the schedule, what is the big non-conference game for BYU?
Portland State.
Oh, they don't play a decent non-conference game.
No, not at all. In fact, their best game non-conference is Eastern Carolina, and it's at Eastern Carolina. That's it. They come home, they go to Colorado, and then they have West Virginia at home. So the schedule lines up that there's a good likelihood they're 5-1 or 6-0 when they play Utah on October 7th, which could be a championship preview depending on what Texas Tech and Kansas State do.
So is there a backstory there, Nathan? I just say that because, BYU has never been afraid to play anyone. They'll go anywhere, play anyone outside the conference, always have, always will, it
Yes.
appears. And, they're not half the Big Ten who runs around and plays just horrendous non-conference scheduling. I've been beating up the likes of Penn State and Rutgers and others. Right. Baylor has done that in the past in the Big 12, but not BYU. So it just didn't work out that they could match up a big game this year?
I think we're talking about the transition from an independent schedule to a full-time schedule. Okay. Tom Holmoe, who just retired as the athletic director, I think he was sort of laying the groundwork. 2026 will be better. 2027 will be even better than that. So it's just that transition from independent to playing, A4 football. I think that's what we're talking about. BYU doesn't run from anybody on purpose, certainly.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense with the transition. This only being year 3,
yes,
in the Big 12. All right.
Yeah, it's something I think people need to keep in mind. It's one of the toughest places to play in the country. Provo is. Night games, they're almost lights out. That Kansas loss last year was inexplicable. But it's the playoff that is the goal. Winning the championship. Everybody wants to win a championship for your conference, but Kalani's trying to get to the playoff and win a couple playoff games. So it's all about expectations and then trying to fill that void.
Well, speaking of the playoff, and it appears, and I did not dig into this because over the weekend I was taking a sabbatical and had a nice little vacation outside the town here and visiting with my kids. So I did not pay any attention to college football. And I come back and I see this 24-team and 28-team college football playoff proposal. And you talk about Kalani Sitake aiming for the playoff. Well, all you're going to need is a pulse if somebody gets their way and they get a 2018 playoff. So does that have any legs at all?
I love it. I don't know. I did a whole show on it
you
last
love
night.
it?
I do. Why not? Let's play more football. I don't get caught
Okay.
up on the qualification stuff. I mean, you're older than I am. You're more experienced than I am. You've watched more football than I am.
You did have to point
But
out I'm older, right, Nathan?
but I want to. Yeah, you look better. Um,
Oh.
but I honestly think I'm all for more and better. I don't care the 7-5 thing. I don't get wrapped up about. If an Indiana is 7-5 and they're the seventh best team, who cares? Let's go out and just. That's what I want to get to. My dream is a 64 team playoff. I mean, sorry, a main division of football. I think we want an upper division of football that you're playing these big games every week, and the playoff is just another step of that. I'm not scared. I'm not a Big 12 homer like that. I think it's kind of asinine, some of the stuff that Yormark has said. So
Okay, so my concern in this, besides having teams reach the playoff that I don't believe have earned a spot in the playoff. So
right,
I can go your route as well and just say, you know what? Let it ride. And if you're 7-5 and you're able to get hot enough to
yeah,
beat that many excellent which I'm guessing we're never going to see,
no,
but these 7-5 teams, big deal. You get to play a playoff game, and maybe you pull off one upset, and it extends your life another week, and it's kind of exciting for a 7-5 team to advance and be 8-5, and then finish their season 8-6 after they get clobbered by 4 touchdowns against the number 5 team in the country.
Well, no,
But
I mean, you could stagger the playoff, right? It doesn't have to be straight seating. You could do buys. There's all kinds of creative ways. All I'm saying is don't close the book just for this is what I think's asinine. What I think's asinine is people that say the spirit of the game. This goes against the spirit of college football, and it goes against spirit this and shouldn't run like that. I think that's a bunch of garbage. We're in the 21st century. More teams have more talent than ever before in the history of college football. There's more recruiting across the board, so you're going to have more competitive matchups. And that doesn't bother me. Do we care if one plays 6 in the NFL? Of course not.
well, I'm not going to dive into all the reasons why there's a difference between the NFL and college football, but talent is number one.
Sure.
The biggest issue I have is that, okay, when I hear you talk about what you're hearing, the response from College Football Nation about the excellence of the sport, I
Right.
think what people are talking about is we've gone from one extreme possibly to another extreme where it used to be so incredibly exclusive. We only had 2 teams in a BCS championship game, and
Right.
everybody else, forget it. You're 13-0, forget it. You're number 3, not good enough.
Yes.
Now we're possibly we seem to be in a pretty sweet spot right here as far as I'm concerned about teams having to put together an excellent season, a very strong season at least, to reach the playoffs. Here's my concern if we go too far. Would I be there for Baylor and Ole Miss playing a playoff game and watching Virginia Tech play Wisconsin in a play? Yeah, 7-5, 7-5. I would be there still.
Okay.
The thing is that what the criticism was when we expanded from 4 to 12 with the possibility to go to 16. Well, there's going to be all these games between these elite teams that suddenly don't matter because they're 10-0 and they don't need to win the game. And they're going to be in the playoffs anyway. And so, the Ohio States and Georgias of the world can throw a game in November and it doesn't matter.
But isn't the SEC already doing that? They're already playing a non-con game that's essentially a bye in November. So what does it matter if we do that in December?
Okay, so again, just a second. My point being that was the criticism from many, and sure, this expansion of the playoff did open up possibilities and opportunities for elite teams to drop a game that they normally needed to win in the past. Shoot, we just saw it: Ohio State and Michigan last November.
Right.
However, my argument was, while there's going to be a couple of those possibly each season, there's going to be dozens of games that are going to now become important that would not have been important before. When 7-2 LSU's playing 7-2 Texas A&M. Well, before that's just a decent football game that if you feel like watching guys pop pads, then you just watch it. But now suddenly this is a playoff game. So there's dozens of those games as opposed to what we had before. But now, Nathan, don't we get to a danger zone of there being such a long list of playoff teams that, if you're in the upper crust or anywhere close to it, you are going to make the playoff and you don't need to worry about it. 9-3, what's it matter? 11-1, big deal. Does it really matter if we're seated second or seventh? And then your most important games are going to be your lower division game, mid to lower division games in these, especially the SEC and the Big Ten. Pick your Iowa, Nebraska game at the end of the year when both of them are 4-4 in the Big Ten, that those are going to become the important games.
I mean, you've already said this. We could go round and round, and maybe you and I just need to do a show and we can explore all these different things. I think if you're a fan of Ole Miss, you wanted one more game last year. I think if you're a fan of BYU, you want them one more game. So the conference championship games to me I would rather teams playing for seeding. And then the end of the season, in my opinion, and we can disagree, but in my opinion, the end of the season absolutely matters. And the seed makes a difference because the upper seed people are playing home games in December. And what's the difference between playing in Columbus and playing in Provo on December 8th? I can tell you it's going to be pretty cold here. So, in my opinion, I just think it's just more football. I'm not too worried about the winnowing thing that people have said, but there's a lot of different things. Everything you said has absolute merit.
Yeah, and your side of it certainly does as well. All right, Nathan, before we let you go, of course, we talked some BYU, but the Big 12 is on center stage, noon Eastern time, week 0. Kansas State and Iowa State's a nice little matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be, obviously a top 25 matchup. I think people are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It should be one of the top games in the Big 12, which is nice, week 0. It could be a championship preview. Who knows? In the Big 12, they could go 7, 8, 9 teams deep. So at the end of the day, I'm just looking forward to quit talking and start watching. That's what I want to do more of now.
No doubt about that. I can't wait till we actually analyze a game and what I saw and not think back to 6 months ago or what could be. You guys are obviously gearing up there at College Football Mafia. So what's going on there?
We're wrapping up our previews. We did the ACC tonight, even though my power went out. Tomorrow we'll finish. We won't finish because we still have to do the G6, but the Big 12 will be tomorrow. And we're just really looking forward to covering games instead of, all talking heads. It's great. Opinions matter. We have the greatest fans in the world watching us, but I'd rather on Tuesday night analyze who did what when on Saturday than let's guess some more what's going to happen the next week. So
for sure. And Nathan, that's why we're going to be here every night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And so, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mark.
All right. It's Nathan Brown, College Football Mafia. It's right here on YouTube. So check it out.
We'll see you later. Sorry
Nathan.
for the camera and stuff.
Have a good one, man.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's get to it. We had to shut off one of our favorites last night. I saw you there in the back room, David, but we were like 18 minutes past. So
yeah.
How you doing tonight?
Well, I thought maybe if you got, I'm doing good, Mark. I thought maybe if you got enough dough, you were going to go for a second hour last night. I thought that was that not in the offering.
Enough dough, I was going to go for a second hour. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the deal. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm done with talking about stuff off the field, Mark. Let's talk about football on the field and what's going forward this season and what we're going to see on the field. I did have a couple of thoughts on a conversation you had last night. You were talking about what could be the Buckeyes' trick game this year or slip-up game. game that could
Yeah.
come out of nowhere. I would throw in the at Illinois game as a possibility. I would also throw in the at Washington game as a possibility.
Yes.
Those would be the two that I would highlight as if they could get tripped up by somebody that's under the radar, it could be one of those two games.
Totally agree.
Okay.
A lot of people really love Washington this year. Damon Williams showed us a lot late in the season, and I think Jed Fish knows what he's doing. So, yeah, Washington is a favorable schedule, that not being one of the favorable games, but Washington's got a fairly easy path to possibly make some noise in the Big Ten.
They could. By the way, I'm kind of with you. I think Illinois might be a little bit overrated this year. I think some people are looking at the schedule and talking about some 10-2 out there. I've heard even crazy people. Well, maybe not so. This is probably the minority. Some 11-1, but they're not going 11-1. But I have heard some 10-2 out there. I don't know if you have as well.
Oh, a lot of 10-2.
Yeah.
If they're 12th in the country, which they are to open the season, a lot of people think they're in that 10-2 range. Sure. But I just see a team that Luke Allmeier's back, really good quarterback, not great, really good quarterback. They lost their running game in terms of their running backs, did not really replace them, lost their best running back to Georgia. Lost their two best wide receivers to the NFL, both NFL players, Pat Bryant, Zachary Franklin. They do have a really strong offensive line coming back and a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
They had an excellent secondary, as they typically do. They had an excellent secondary last year, and most of those guys are back. But their season wasn't as strong as I think a lot of people, of course, go straight to the record, but also that they impressed against South Carolina in the bowl game. South Carolina team missing a lot of players that opted out for the NFL draft as well.
Right.
And,
That's
this
a
is
good
a
point.
team that beat Rutgers on the last play of the game, that lost to Minnesota, that beat Purdue 50-49 in overtime, that beat Nebraska in overtime.
Well, yeah, Mark, I think it's a couple things. I think it's possibly people looking favorably on the schedule. I think it's the fact that people think that Burt always seems to field a pretty good defense. And then I think the last thing is I think that they expect Altmaier to maybe level up a little bit, this year at quarterback, or, take a next step.
And I also think that people are searching for a chic pick. They're
true.
Searching for, okay, who's going to be the outlier? Yeah.
Okay. Well, by the way, as the Sultan of Segway goes with Altmaier here, let's talk some Big Ten quarterbacks.
Okay.
Okay. Now you don't do position rankings anymore. You used to. I thought there was a time you used to do position rankings.
I used to do a lot of things, David, that I don't do anymore. But yeah, I used to rank all the positions and nationally, in the Big Ten, and the other conferences. Yes.
Yeah, that was my early 2017, 2018 Mark Rogers days.
I was a hard worker.
Man, I'm just saying, Mark, are you slacking now? Is that what you're saying? No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. I was kidding.
On my schedule, I'm not really slacking. I'm just putting my energies in other ventures. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, let's look at the Big Ten quarterbacks. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave out Sane, and I'm going to leave out Aller. Rank these Big Ten quarterbacks in order.
Okay.
Okay. Altmaier, Dante Moore, Mendoza, Dylan Raiola, and Nico.
Okay, I got to start writing them down. Based on that, okay, Altmaier, Nico. Who else?
Moore.
Dante Moore. Okay.
Mendoza.
Yeah.
And Raiola.
Okay. I am not going to rank them based on what we saw last season. I'm going to try to project because Dylan Raiola should take.
That's what I want. Go ahead.
A hike. He should improve considerably. That's a pretty good grouping right there. I'm going to say that, and don't necessarily tie their statistics to what I'm going to rank them, because Nico's obviously in a bit of a deficit here in terms of
Yeah.
talent around him offensively. They don't really have much at
Right.
UCLA. But I'm going to say that Fernando Mendoza is the best quarterback of those 5. And then
Really?
I'm going to say Altmaier is 2, Nico's 3. I guess I still come out with Raiola
Wow.
at number 5 because I'm going to go Dante Moore at 4 and Dylan Raiola at 5.
Wow. I'm a little surprised by that, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that you would have had the man morphing into Patrick Mahomes maybe at least 3rd.
I'm trying to put together, okay, what we know, what we've seen.
Okay.
So they've all played football, and of course Dante Moore has played the least.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to take the recruiting scouting report and project that they should. So you would think that Altmaier and Mendoza have the least room to grow because they've played the most, especially Altmaier. Maybe Mendoza, who I see prominent on some draft boards for next year.
Well, yeah, that's the feeling is that Indiana is totally upgraded at quarterback. That's why I think there's some feeling out there that Indiana this year steep decline in record might not be out there like people think it is if they've upgraded at that position. Now, I'm interested to see how they are in the trenches compared to where they were a year ago, because that's where they really got exposed. Once they stepped up to the big boys, I think they got exposed in the second half of the Team Up North game and nearly lost that game, by the way. And then Ohio State clearly exposed them in the trenches, and then Notre Dame clearly exposed them. But I do think that if they've leveled up at quarterback, which I think they have improved, then I think this can at least be still an 8-win football team.
Oh, absolutely. I think it can be. I may pick them 9-3, actually.
Wow. I tell you what, if Cignetti goes back-to-back 11-1 and 9-3, is Cignetti all of a sudden a wanted man on the coaching circuit? Is Cignetti now the hot hire in coaching if he takes Indiana to 11-1 and 9-3 in back-to-back seasons, Mark?
Yeah, he is the latest version of Lane Kiffin.
Okay.
He's the latest version of, we know that he's got some genius in him, but he also kind of runs off the rails a little bit. And maybe not every team in the country or every administration is enamored with that. But the more you win and prove that you're more genius than rogue individual, then maybe you get more looks from more prominent programs.
See, I think Cignetti to Riley comparison, I don't know. I mean, Riley was more of a quarterback whisperer, offensive schemer. I don't know if Cignetti is on that level, right, Mark? I mean, that's where I would kind of differ on that comparison.
No, I said Lane Kiffin.
Oh, Lane, my bad, Lane. Well, yeah, but I would also put Kiffin in the offensive schemer, offensive
I'm not
play
comparing them in terms of their skill sets.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm comparing them in terms of their outside the box nature, their villain, slightly a soft villain type character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. From that perspective, you compare Kiffin to Osa. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I could see that a little bit. Yeah. Raiola is the one at 3, because I do think Nebraska takes a step this year. Looking at their schedule, I don't know if you've already picked their record. I'm leaning 8-4.
I am not a Nebraska fan this year.
See, I'm a Matt Rule guy, and I think Raiola takes a step.
I really like Matt Rule as well, and Dylan Raiola should take a major step. He was a pretty bad quarterback last year. Now, he was a true freshman, so my criticism wasn't as harsh as it would have been otherwise. And he did play a little bit better down the stretch when Dana Hogerson was running the offense, who's going to be running the offense this year. So they brought in Hogerson with about 3 to 4 games left, and he pretty much learned the offense in like 2 weeks and just went to work. And despite Dana Hogerson not being the best head coach on the planet, he does know how to run an offense. So, yeah, schedule, Raiola's growth, Hogerson, Matt Rule, year 3.
Yeah, I think 8-4 is doable if you look at that schedule, Mark. I mean, I think it's doable. I think their chance at a playoff's probably year number 3 under Rule. That I mean, I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you would hope that the trajectory is to maybe 8-4, and then maybe by year number 3, you're looking at maybe the 10-2, trying to compete for a playoff type spot team.
Yeah, I'm just not that sold on the guys running the ball and catching the ball for them.
The skill. Yeah.
I don't think their skill position players are that good. I think their defense was really good last year, but they lost their defensive coordinator. And
Right.
if you talk to Nebraska insiders, maybe the bigger loss was they lost their defensive line coach, went with him to Florida State. So they did lose, some key coaching components from a top defense, a really good defense that I think was overrated statistically. I don't think they were that good.
Yeah, I thought they were okay on the defensive line last year. They certainly exposed us, although us starting a tackle that had no business starting in that game in Columbus was really what wrecked that offensive line for Ohio State that day in Mahalski. But I digress. One other quarterback that's getting a lot of love, and I just looked at his game log, Mark, and I watched a few LSU games. Is Nussmeier getting a little too much run here and maybe a little bit more overrated than people are giving him credit for?
Yeah, and I don't know where that's coming. I don't know if that's coming from he's that talented and projects as that high of an NFL draft pick, or it is, okay, he's good and they really are talented at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Now they're not 2019 LSU.
Well, nobody is. Yeah.
Actually, we just had a conversation with our buddy Carter from Power Hour LSU, and we're going to post that with a Clemson LSU. And we're talking about their wide receivers. And again, they've got 3 really good ones in Anderson, Hilton, and Xavier Thomas. They've got 3 really good ones. So they're stacked there as usual. And the running game, which was non-existent last year, should be much better. So they should be more balanced offensively than they were last year.
Well, the question in Baton Rouge is always the defense. I mean,
in recent years. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If Brian Kelly loses his job within the next 2 years, which could very easily happen, people are going to look back years from now and wonder how in 2023 he wasted Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and Jaden Daniels in what could have been a generational offense in 2023 because they couldn't play a freaking lick of defense. And that team lost 3 games.
Yeah. They were giving up just gobs of yardage and points. One of those games was against
Ole Miss I remember it
Ole
was
Miss, threw up like a 55-51 game on them, and Florida wasn't even that good, and they hit them for like a 45-35 game. Harold Perkins is going to be playing in a different position. They tried to address the defense through the transfer portal. They probably went out there and got more high-quality defensive players, including A.J. Halsey, who was first team all Big 12 from Houston to play safety. But I don't know if you can fix a defense that quickly with like 4 really top-notch transfer portal players, if that brings it all together. I don't know.
Yeah, it's surprising that, maybe he, because Dave Aranda, I believe, was that defensive coordinator in 19 for Ed Ogeron's team. Les was able to find Bo Pelini, who ran that 07 defense for him. It's interesting that Kelly, maybe he just can't find the right DC. I don't know.
And as you were saying all that, I think that brings us back to a point that we've discussed, you and I, for years. And offense and defensive coordinators, those coordinating positions in college football are huge. How many times have we seen, top offensive line coaches that are given just a bunch of 3 stars and they can somehow weave it together and make an offensive line, or what Phil Parker does at Iowa, where he's handed a bunch of 3 stars and he's able to field a top 5 defense in the country. Yeah, having excellent coordinators is crucial.
Well, see, but I think that goes to what great coaches do. What do the Sabans, the Myers of the world have done in the past? They build staff, Mark.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be the first to say that Urban had a couple misses in staff. The most obvious one was not replacing Tom Herman, after 14,
Yep.
in, having Ed Warner and Beck, which were just a clown show running that offense and wasting what was the most talented roster maybe ever at Ohio State in 2015, so, but, when you miss on staff, it's huge. Who's actually saying they're missing on staff right now is Georgia. A lot of people don't like what Mike Bobo down there running that offense, after, what happened last year, people getting on Kirby, for that. And, Monken did a really good job for 2 years running that offense before, he skated and went to the NFL. So, that's the key, though. If you're a defensive minded coach, you better get your OC right. And if you're an offensive mind, like Ryan Day, obviously, he totally missed by hiring Kerry Combs, So, but he always thought that I think he always felt that he was going to have Jeff Hafley for longer than 1 year, after 2019. I didn't think he thought he wasn't going to bolt for BC and take the BC head coaching job, which, I don't know if that was the best decision in the world.
Yeah. Got repeated about 5 years later.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, David, I'm going to have to let you go.
Yeah.
But call back anytime.
All right. Hey, one last thing real quick before I let you go. Quick question. Are we coming back with like a extravaganza preview where Mark Rogers reveals his 12-team playoff, his national championship game, national champion, all that good stuff?
Well, I'm going to be scurrying down to Miami tomorrow, kind of half business and half pleasure trip. So that's quite a haul. And so just to make it back for this late show tomorrow is going to be something. Then we're going to be down to Thursday and Friday. So yes, I'm going to do something to unleash my conference predictions and all the records and the playoff and the whole deal. I've been doing it forever, so I've got to get it done.
Hey, you got like 85 legal pads there, buddy. Let's get it. I went out and bought legal pads the other day I'm going to start writing mine down here in about a minute. I got my Phil Steele preview. I'm set to go here, my man.
There you go. Okay. All right.
All right.
Yes, we will do our best. What can I say?
My friend.
Always
always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take care, Mark. Bye-bye.
All right. We will get to the rest of these calls because you've been waiting patiently, even though we're over by a minute, and we need to get to the fine folks that have contributed here. So we got John Burt. Thank you so much. And John, as I mentioned earlier, and you may have missed this, we see that you're our first Miami member on the Miami channel. So thank you so much for that, John. And we will be supplementing you with the emojis and badges and all that good stuff. So just hang on the Miami channel. So we got to get to that here in the next couple of weeks. I'm not promising a date in which that's going to be done, but we have to deliver on, all the specialty items for our members. So we've got, of course, John. We got old buddy Rowan Phillips, who has joined us for many years on the Miami channel as well. So we appreciate you being here, Rowan. And again, Bilal, Buckeye fan extraordinaire, has joined us here at the Voice of College Football for a long, long time. So we appreciate you guys and your loyalty as new members here at the Voice of College Football. The number of spoof accounts that have arisen through the years, I guess I should take this as a compliment of sorts, a backhanded compliment. There used to be a zillion of these. Now, this is the first one I've seen in quite a while, but yeah, Sleepy Mark, thank you for the $5 contribution. Good night, everyone. Wish I could stay for the whole show. I'm looking forward to the 24-hour stream. Oh, my goodness. If you guys only knew what else we're trying to do in business and life these days. And man, when I think about a 24-hour live stream, but hey, it's tradition, so I'll be here. This coming in from our buddy Adam Lamparello. Mark, it's Adam. Indiana, I don't know why we have to put that in quotes, but anyway, Indiana is a one-hit wonder and will flop this year. Okay. Adam, leave it in the chat. Define flop. Is that 5-7? What is that? Okay. Texas, Ohio State, and Penn State are overrated. Clemson will win it all, and Belichick, in quotes, will fall at UNC. Bold predictions from our buddy Adam Lamparello. He and Gabe get together to do Rutgers live every Tuesday night, so join them. All right, let's get through a rapid fire session as we head out the door. We got Burks on the line. Burks, how you doing?
Hey Mark, how you doing, man? Man, life is good, dude. I gotta say, man, blessed after I got the results I wanted for the cheating scandal, unfortunately, but it is what it is, we just gotta move on, but dude, I'm just so blessed, man. I'm like so happy, you know.
Well, I'm glad that you're happy.
Yeah, it's
I don't
just
know exactly how I'm interpreting why you're happy. You're happy that they got hit as much as they did or as little as they did.
as little, man, like no
Okay.
vacated wins, none of this stuff, dude,
Okay.
and
All right.
the Connor Stallion stuff, I'm not gonna lie, Mark, that stuff has made me gone insane. I'm not gonna lie. And at the end of the day, dude, like listen, at the end of the day, we actually what I'm shocked about is that we actually were supposed to get a bowl ban, apparently. But the NCAA said that because, it's not future,
We,
it's gonna affect future
I think
players and that they won't benefit because let's be real, if you give them a bowl ban, NCAA is not going to benefit, man. They're not. And so, they just gave us a hard fine of 20, 30 million. And, uh, if you want to make an appeal, make an appeal. But if you don't want to do it, that's fine by me, dude. As long as, our accolades are not, banned and stuff, I'm just so blessed, man, that
the
this,
pros and cons of appealing for me would be
yeah,
on one hand, the negative is if you're Michigan and you appeal, you keep this story alive. You keep the
exactly.
story alive and you keep it out there in the public and it gets
Yeah.
talked about more and more and more. And obviously, you have to devote resources, legal teams, and all that to it. So I have no idea how much that costs, but I know it's not cheap. On the pro side of it, though, you show that we're not standing for this. We don't believe that this was the right judgment, and we're going to fight for that. And maybe that becomes the last PR move and the last public perception statement left in everybody's minds is some of this got repealed back. So this wasn't as bad as we thought. So there are pros and cons there. My initial thought was they should appeal it. This is in their favor to appeal it. But then I thought, well, they're keeping the story alive. So I don't know that that benefits them.
Yeah, I'm at a point, man, that if they do appeal or not, I don't really care. As long as my natty, my Big Ten titles, and all that stuff is not vacated,
Yeah,
and we
it's
have
just
no
going to be
bowl
about
ban.
money.
Yeah,
It's going to be
it's
money and, again, the PR game
yeah,
is
no,
what that's about.
and the best part, Mark, is that how both fan bases of okay, well, not both, but Ohio State fan base, man, they have been so divided. They are actually more hurt, or at least the YouTube community and Twitter.
Mhm.
They're so divided to the point that they have beef with each other. I just love it, man. There's a group that wants the hammer, kept never shutting up about the hammer, and that group where you know what, just stop talking about the hammer and stuff, and let's talk about the present football. And it's just so funny, Mark, seeing them have beef, calling them names. Like I'm telling you right now, dude, if they were to meet each other like in real life, and if they were to meet each other, they would actually be throwing hands and kicking each other. That's how much beef they have. Like I'm not lying to you, dude. It is so funny. Oh man, life is great, dude. I'm blessed.
Yeah, I only hear about all that stuff secondhand from guys like you and all sorts of other people, whether they're other Ohio State fans or mostly
Yeah.
Michigan fans that let me know how much a Buckeye Nation has gone off the rails. But I don't really participate in that, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I just wanted to, call in just to say that I'm happy, and because I'm not gonna lie, the last call in I did with you, I went like full berserk on my fan base and Connor Stallions and all this crap. And last thing I just want to say is, at the end of the day, man, we did it. Connor Stallions, he did the wrong thing at the end of the day, man. You cannot justify that. Okay, he did nothing, and people, like I said, I noticed you got triggered by some Michigan fans over, because they're getting really soft over because you talk about the cheating and stuff. I get it, I understand, but at the end of
So
the day,
that
man,
means you heard me last night.
yes, I did hear
Okay.
you last
Yeah, I
night.
got a
Yeah,
bit fired up last night because
yeah.
it just irritates me beyond belief when I believe I'm being as fair as I possibly can. And if anything, I'm leaning in the Michigan direction to
No,
not
you
try to
are.
overplay that they didn't, uh, fairly win these championships. And then I still have these moron Michigan fans that are telling me that my Ohio State colors are showing and all this other business. And it's like, are you serious? I'm leaning in your direction.
No, I agree, dude. You've been so fair, and I actually feel bad for you, to tell you the truth, because it's just there's fans in our fan base who are soft. There's fans in Ohio State fan base that are soft. It's
Sure.
just you gotta move on, and you can't get triggered. I get triggered really easily with stuff like this. If this was happening to me, but I don't want you to be like me. So you know I just don't. You're too nice of a guy, and you don't deserve this. And you just have to move on. But at the end of the day, man, we just have to move on. And yeah, that's basically it. But I'm just so happy for the season to start. Now I'm done with this cheating crap. It made me go psychotic. So yeah, that's all I got to say.
Well, Burks, it was good to have you on tonight.
Yeah.
You're welcome anytime. We appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you for taking my call here. So appreciate it, man.
All right. We had two other callers that were on the line for a long, long time. So we want to make sure that we get to Caden, of course. Caden's hanging in here. So, Caden, good to see you. What's going on?
Hey, Mark, good evening. First of all, just wanted to say, you know what? It's college football season, and I know people are going to be excited, fired up, and, everybody's ready to go. So, I'm hoping everybody enjoys a good college football season. The
That's
thing
your
is,
statement. That's what you've
well,
got for us.
and the thing is, here's the thing. I just want to say, I'm going to be watching a little bit of college football here and there, but it's going to be like, if I'm not busy, or it's like, I've got at least some other things going on or something. So I might watch a few games here and there, or pop my head in a little bit here and there. So, and honestly, I've just thought about trolling. I was like, yeah, I like trolling Mark Rogers was like the absolute worst mistake. Seriously. And I'm like,
So, Caden, I'm just trying to set the record straight. So, you're an Ohio State fan. You're going to watch all of Ohio State games, but beyond that, you're going to maybe catch a game here and there.
I'm
Is
going
that
to
the
try to
deal?
get a game or two, but it's like, it depends.
If you got better things to do, you'll do that.
I mean, it just depends on the day. It just,
Yeah. I have no issue with that. I'm just making things clear because I have always said, hey, for the millions of us that sit in front of a box and watch way too much sports, and that's me in a former life. I don't watch that much sports anymore outside of college football. I don't watch really any sports outside of college football. And I used to be a huge NFL fan, baseball fan, etc. Yeah, there are better things to do in life and better things to do with your time. So I applaud you, Caden.
yeah, well, let's be honest, my life has taken a little bit of a better turn, and, I've gotten better opportunities and nowadays, and truth be told, I just am.
So you're going to call us about all the games that you didn't watch, and you're going to have an opinion about them.
I mean, not particularly. Just be truthfully told.
Okay.
If there's a game I don't watch or there is a game I missed, I ain't gonna say nothing about it. Truthfully told, because
Okay.
if I don't watch the game or I haven't watched it, it's like, oh well, I'll at least maybe give like a thought about maybe the next game, maybe. But that's like a prediction, but not really much of a actual fact.
Okay. All
And
right.
Adam,
We'll
I
just have
was
to
gonna
see
say,
how that plays out. Okay.
I was gonna say, Adam, Mark, he dropped the super chat for you. Said, Mark, one of the biggest challenges for players is being consistent. If you were a coach, what advice would you give, or what would you do to maximize players' consistency and performance? I mean, that's kind of a question I would want to ask you personally. I mean, since you watch a lot of college football games.
Sure. We'll get into that after our call here. So we got one other call. Caden, you got anything else?
Nothing else. I do gotta let you know to please subscribe to the Voice of College Football. It's Mark Rogers. He's one of the best debaters on college football. And if you guys do follow him on Twitter, please be sure to follow him on Twitter and Mark Rogers VOCFB. By the way, I do follow you, Mark, on Twitter. I was going to mention to you something on Twitter I tried to message you about, but I'm going to try to message you on Twitter tomorrow. But yeah, if you don't, please subscribe to the Voice of College Football, and please make sure to follow Mark Rogers at Mark Rogers VOCFB. You don't really want to miss out on some cool stuff he's got coming down the rail. So, Mark, appreciate you as always, and hopefully catch you down the road, and maybe we'll see where this ends up.
I appreciate that, Caden. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, our buddy Caden stopping by. And let me address this super chat from Adam. Thank you so much for the contribution. Mark, one of the biggest challenges for players is being consistent. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for all of us in our occupation, in life, in relationships. If you were a coach, what advice would you give, or what would you do to maximize players' consistency and performance? Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that consistency is rooted in repetition. Consistency is rooted in fundamentals. And so routine is extremely important. Anybody who is disciplined has a routine. I think I've been a hardworking individual for most of my adult life, although it's been difficult to have a routine in life based on my former employer and the ridiculous schedule that they gave me that was all over the place. I've got a best friend who's a regimented gym rat, job, diet, everything, the model of consistency. And so I think it starts with defining expectations. So anybody in an organization that is a successful organization needs to know what their role is. They need to understand what the expectations and the standards are. So if those are clearly laid out, role, goals, expectations, standards, and then we put the plan in place. And the plan is you wake up at this time, you do X, Y, and Z. You eat this, you don't eat this. You come to film class, and this is what's expected of your film sessions. You work out in such a manner, and the goals are X, Y, and Z. I just think everything needs to be repetition and discipline. And then that breeds consistency. So that's the basic setup. There would be more to it than that. But I do appreciate the question, Adam. And again, it's Adam and Gabe on the Redker Show every Tuesday night. Do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And as Caden mentioned, you can catch me on Twitter at Mark Rogers VOCFB, at Mark Rogers VOCFB. And we will leave you with this, and you will most likely see me again, of course, on our late night show, Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern time. So again, thank you so much for the support as always. And until Wednesday night. College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.